right, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we'll be yapping about week 2 of the NFL season. We'll be giving you our fantasy football takeaways for every single game, our reactions to every single game. Crazy week, a lot of injuries. Things kind of went back to earth this week, but you got Cooper Kupp going down to injury. Obviously, Puka Nacua already down to injury. The Rams are pretty down bad right now. Isaiah Pacheco's going on IR. Tua with the bad concussion. Obviously, Justin Jefferson injury, but he should be fine. It was a pretty rough week, man. Christian McCaffrey's going on IR as well, it looks like. So just a lot of crazy injuries, screwing over a lot of fantasy teams. And I'm excited to get into the recap. We have a lot to talk about. How are you, Josh?
Doing good. It was a really fun week. As we are recording this, it is Monday night, so we just watched a pretty intense game right at the end between the Eagles and the Falcons, which is pretty fun. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. But yeah, overall, it was a pretty good week. A lot of injuries, a lot of things happened, so I'm excited to really dive into it.
Yep. And with that, let's just get right into it. We got 32 teams to talk about here. Let's go on to the Thursday night football game. The Bills went into Miami, beat the Dolphins 31-10. Getting right into fantasy. I mean, James Cook, we'll talk about the winners first. James Cook, you are that guy, man. He had a game. If you had him, you probably won your matchup unless you played against Alvin Kamara. 11 carries, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns, and also that 17-yard receiving touchdown. 3 touchdowns from James Cook. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Obviously, you were already starting him, but it is nice to know that he has that type of upside for you. Khalil Shakir ends up being the wide receiver 1 for the Bills in this game, and it was a surprise. We were telling you guys to start Keon Coleman because he was the wide receiver 1 for the Bills, so we'll take our L on that one. I don't think Keon Coleman's honestly a start right now until he proves otherwise. I think Khalil Shakir is a start though in this scheme, in this offense where Josh Allen's just feeding the slot receivers. So Khalil Shakir has a really good day, catches all of his targets, a really efficient day, and I think he's kind of that guy. Dalton Kincaid, 4 for 33, a little bit better than week 1, but still nothing to write home about. You're not too excited. Josh Allen has a bad game. I'm not selling him or anything. It's obviously just a product of James Cook blowing up, and it was just the game script, and they didn't need him to go off because he went, they were up 31-10, and it's all because of James Cook. So don't panic about Josh Allen. He'll be, the QB1 rest of season. But yeah, that's kind of the takeaway for the Bills for me.
Yeah, it was pretty pretty the game got away from the Dolphins fairly quick, and you could just feel it. And then obviously once Tua goes down, it was over. And like you said, it was a bad Josh Allen week, not in terms of how he played, but just of game script for fantasy, because they didn't need to do much. He didn't need to play Superman. He didn't need to do any of that. James Cook absolutely took over. He was crazy. Dalton Kincaid, I'm not too worried about him. Every single fantasy tight end is really struggling. There's only a couple that really aren't. So I wouldn't panic. Obviously, Dalton Kincaid is a start moving forward. And then on the Dolphins side of things, I am obviously, if Tua is not in and you have Skylar Thompson playing, it's hard. It's going to be hard with the Dolphins receivers. I obviously you have to start Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They were pretty terrible in this game. They didn't do much. They left early. But man, Devon Achan is crazy. Let's just say he's crazy. He is the focal point of this offense right now. And as you can see on the screen, 22 carries, 96 yards to go along with 7 receptions for 69 yards and a touchdown. He was the leader in both rushing and receiving. So he is a fantasy league winner. If you drafted him, congratulations.
Yeah, he's turning out to be that league winner that we all thought he was coming into this season. Just crazy upside. It was really just a question of if he stays healthy, and so far he's staying healthy. And Mike McDaniel is saying that he didn't get enough touches. He thought he should have got more touches because he was earning them every time he touched the ball. Something happened. So you can definitely be excited about Achan, even with Skylar Thompson or Tyler Huntley. Tua, Tyreek, it is a little bit more, rough because Tua was so perfect for them fantasy wise because he's just a good point guard, can get it to them, and he just is on time with the offense. So it'll be a drop off for sure with Skylar Thompson. I saw some stats that were very, very, concerning for Tyreek and Waddle when they play with Skylar Thompson. He just is not a downfield thrower. So you got to move them down a few tiers. You're not going to bench them right now. They're too talented of players to bench, which is a little bit unfortunate. Hopefully Tyler Huntley can go in and give you some upside though. If you have those two, you're not starting anyone else in this offense though. It's just those three. And then I think, I don't think you can start Mostert. I really don't. I think Mostert's just on the bench until maybe he proves otherwise, or maybe he's just a handcuff at this point.
Yep. And final takeaway, Josh Allen is the Dolphins' daddy. So he owns the Dolphins, and I don't see it changing for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, that's kind of a known fact. Josh Allen is that guy. And last shout out Von Miller, man. He just looks awesome. I was surprised that Von Miller actually with his age and he just looks explosive as hell. So respect to Von Miller. With that, let's go on to our Sunday slate of games. We'll start out with this Browns game going into Jacksonville and beating the Jaguars 18-13. With the Browns, I think Deshaun Watson looked a little bit better. He looked a little bit more competent. Obviously, struggled to put this game away. He wasn't great or anything. He was just, there. He was just competent. Running back wise, though, Deonta Foreman gets 14 carries, 42 yards. I lost the league by 0.3 because I started Jerome Ford over I started him over Drake London, and I would have won if I just started Drake London, but I didn't know that Deontay Foreman was playing, so I just looked like a complete casual. I didn't know that Foreman would even be featured in this offense because he wasn't week one. So that's just a bad call. I said that Ford was a must start as well. Going forward, I don't think that Jerome Ford is a must start. It just depends on your lineup really, but I do not think he's in that must start territory with Deontay Foreman getting all that work, and Ford didn't really get any receiving work in this game. And then Amari Cooper, man, he looks like he's checked out. He looks washed physically. He doesn't look like a good athlete. When you're getting outplayed and outproduced by Elijah Moore and Jerry Jeudy, I think Amari Cooper's cooked. If you can get out of him, I would. I mean, you can't really sell. You're selling really low on him, which is unfortunate. But I don't have any hope for Cooper rest of season. I really don't have any hope for this offense rest of season. So I'm just trying to get off of the Browns offense, honestly. And I mean, respect to Jerry Jeudy. He's going to be on your bench. You can't start him. But yeah, that's about it for the Browns for me.
Yeah, it was a weird game. The Jacksonville Jaguars changed their stadium name from Everbank to Trevor Bank Stadium, and that didn't really go in their favor. I kind of thought the Jacksonville Jaguars would come in here and get a pretty gritty win, but it just happened to be the other way around. And Deshaun Watson, he played, I guess, manageable. It wasn't so terrible, but it wasn't great. I thought both quarterbacks kind of struggled in this one. And yeah, from a fantasy aspect, Travis, I'll speak on the Jaguars here. Travis Etienne, you're kind of just banking on, honestly, on him getting a touchdown at this point to be fantasy relevant. He kind of just feels boom or bust. However, I think going forward, I think he's played a couple tough defenses. The Browns have a really good defensive line, obviously with Myles Garrett. But I really think he's just not getting as involved in the passing game as I would like. I mean, he did get 4 targets. He comes with 3 receptions for 6 yards, so it just wasn't very productive for him, and he just hasn't been super productive. So we're hoping for a heat up from him. And then, I mean, my favorite player, and I think your favorite player, is Brian Thomas Jr. He seems to be the focal point of this offense. I mean, he gets only 4 targets, but he comes down with 2 receptions for 94 yards. So you can just expect a big play or a touchdown from Brian Thomas Jr. in every game. And as he is a rookie, he will progress throughout the season. He will get more comfortable in this offense. And I think he could be, I honestly think he is a must start going forward.
Yeah, I'm really looking to trade for Brian Thomas. I was after week one as well. I just love him. He's easily the most explosive playmaker in this receiving room. That kind of
Evan
translates to
Ingram, sorry, just forgot. Evan Ingram goes out with a hamstring injury in pregame. So that is definitely something to keep out for Brian Thomas Jr., progressively getting better too, getting more of those target shares.
Yeah, Evan Ingram could even miss a week or a few weeks. So Brenton Strange is an option. He has 3 catches for 65 yards. If you probably are down bad for tight end at this point because there's 2 tight ends in the league that seems like in fantasy. So I mean, Brenton Strange is someone that should be rostered, especially if you're an Ingram owner. I would definitely go for him just to get those guaranteed points. But like I was saying, Christian Kirk, 1 catch, -1 yards on 3 targets. Christian Kirk is not someone that can be started. I was somewhat higher on him than people. I was, like targeting. I wasn't going away from him. I was targeting him in draft. So that is a bad call on me. Christian Kirk is not startable. Just abysmal play, really. It looks like he may have hit a wall physically, and he's just not that guy. Brian Thomas Jr., though, he's so exciting. You're trading for him, you're starting him, you're really excited for him. And Travis Etienne got lucky, man. It was looking like he was going to be in a real split, but Bigsby does go down with an injury. So Travis Etienne should be a lot more, he should have a lot bigger of a workload going forward with that Bigsby injury. He definitely gets lucky on that one because it was getting a little bit scary. But I think that's about all the takeaways in this one. Gabe Davis is just, a dart throw that you're probably not even rostering, but in a deeper league, you can definitely roster him. But yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. and ETN are really the only two I'm excited about.
Yeah, and just a weird game. One of the grosser games of the after of the morning slate, I should say.
Yeah, that was a pretty rough watch, honestly. It wasn't really on red zone too much just because no one was scoring. Just not an electric game. Deshaun Watson. Trevor Lawrence disappointed a little bit as well. I think that Browns defense was in Trevor's head a little bit. But let's get on to the next game, a more exciting game, I guess, especially if you're a Buccaneers fan. The Bucs go into Detroit and beat the Lions 20-16. Baker Mayfield is that guy. He's an absolute baller. He didn't do too much through the air, but he always just gets the job done. He's just a relentless player. Chris Godwin, though, man, the MVP of fantasy so far. He was such a good value pick. I had him pretty high up in my rankings, but I just didn't ever take him in any of my leagues. Really, really regretting that one. 7 catches, 117 yards, 1 touchdown, 8 targets. He leads the league in targets right now. He is just looking awesome. He's looking like a league winner. Slot Godwin is a totally different monster than Godwin on the outside. So very, very exciting for him. Mike Evans, you're not worried about him at all. He'll be much more electric in other weeks where Baker throws more than 185 passing yards. They do play the Broncos this week, so monitor that. He should be shadowing Mike Evans, so that is something to monitor. And then Rashad White is something to monitor, man. 10 carries, 18 yards, 0 touchdowns. He does go out with the injury. It looks like he's going to be okay, though. So a little bit scary with Rashad White. He's definitely entering you still have to start him, but he's entering the category of you're getting a little bit scared. You definitely have to monitor Rashad White with Bucky Irving being pretty productive with his carries. So that's about my takeaways for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I think you just pretty much summed that very perfectly. But like you said, Chris Godwin, the fantasy winner right here, he in PPR formats through the first 2 weeks is position ranked number one with 23.5 points per game in the last 2 weeks. And yeah, like you said, I mean, he's getting, I mean, back-to-back weeks of 8 targets coming down with 8 and 7 receptions, 83 yards, and then 117 this week, and back-to-back touchdowns. He's just looking so solid. So if you got him, congratulations. He wasn't even going that high in league, so he was definitely a steal. And then just to bounce right over to the Detroit Lions. It looks like we honestly have, the Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery, like two potentially top 10 running backs. So, you're extremely happy with them. You're extremely happy with their production. They're both getting fed in this offense through the air and on the ground. They're both really productive. It's a great 1-2 punch. It kind of reminds me of the 2018 Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon duo where you just feel comfortable starting both of them and you don't even blink because they're going to get you anywhere from 15 to 20 points every single week. However, Jared Goff is a little bit suspect. I know you started him in our main league this week. We're very disappointed. He goes for 300 yards, 0 touchdown, and 2 interceptions with a 36.1 QBR. So just not Jared Goff's best performance. He's not really targeting Laporta, which just makes me really mad. The offense isn't really going through Laporta. It was nice to see Amon-Ra St. Brown get back onto track with that 11 receptions and 119 yards, but it just doesn't seem like Goff is getting it done through the air as much, and they're just really focaling this run game when they get to the red zone and when they're in that prime area for these receivers and for this passing game attack. They just seem to go to the running backs.
Yep, they're kind of funneling the offense towards Gibbs, Montgomery, and Amon-Ra right now. You got to be excited if you're Amon-Ra manager. You got 19 targets and he leaves the game early. He looks fine. So 11 catches, 119 yards on 19 targets for Amon-Ra. You're super, super excited for the future with Amon-Ra. Just wait till he gets those touchdowns. He's going to be week winning for you. And then, yeah, like you said, Gibbs, Montgomery, must start players. Montgomery was a massive steal. I was targeting him as my RB2 in like every single league. It was looking a little bit gross for him until the end of the game. He definitely got those, that rushing touchdown and then that a few receptions to kind of pad his stats a little bit. It was looking a little bit rough to start, but Jameer Gibbs, man, he is a complete stud, getting 7 catches on 7 targets. And then Sam Laporta is someone I'm not too worried about. I did have a pretty good feeling that he would struggle in this game just because Goff and against teams that blitz a lot, he does not look to throw to Laporta. He just looks for his his early intermediate options like Amon-Ra and Gibbs and Montgomery. He likes throwing to Laporta and letting those plays develop downfield to get it to him. So I'm not too worried about Laporta. I would even say maybe buy low on Laporta right now. And then Jared Goff, I'm cutting him to send a message to my team in fantasy. I can't. No touchdown for Goff. He's just played pretty abysmal actually the first 2 weeks. I had high expectations for Goff. I had him as a top 10 quarterback. So I definitely want to see more from Goff. I'm not starting him.
And the quarterback on the other side, man, right now is the number one quarterback in fantasy football, Baker Mayfield. Obviously it wasn't a huge week from him. He still got it down. He did decent on the ground, getting you 34 rushing yards and a touchdown. But yeah, 20 points this week in fantasy. Last week, 37. He is still hanging on to that number one through 2 weeks with 29.2 points per game. But yeah, I mean, if you're able to get Baker Mayfield, if he's somehow still sitting on your waivers, he's worth a stash, man. He's probably, a must start going forward this whole season because he's gonna get it done. He's gonna get it done on the ground. He's gonna get it done through the air. This team is gonna score touchdowns. Those receivers are too electric. They will find the end zone on long plays. And so Baker's just got that potential, to be a league winning quarterback that you didn't even have to draft, that you could, if he's still somehow on the waiver, throw some fab at him.
I wish he was still on ours. I would love to have him because he's just guaranteed touchdowns. He's a dog. Last shout out in this game, Aiden Hutchinson, 5 sacks. He's just insane. Through 2 games, he's literally just incredible. He leads the league in sacks, total pressures, pass rush wins, and pass rush win percentage. So he is on a heater. Shout out to Aiden Hutchinson. He's making a shout for Defensive Player of the Year at this point. Just a crazy, crazy outing from Aiden Hutchinson. And with that, we'll go on to our next game. Pretty surprising game. Neither of us picked this one. It was a very unexpected outcome. The Saints going to Dallas and beat the Cowboys 44-19 out of nowhere. Just shocked the world. The Saints are just shocking the world on every end. Clinton Kubiak, I owe you an apology because in our deep dive episode this offseason, I said I was scared of Clinton Kubiak because he comes from a Nathaniel Hackett system. So, pardon me for being a little bit scared of someone that learned from Nathaniel Hackett. I definitely put too much into that because he is cooking. He's looking like he's going to be the head coach of the Jaguars, the Bears, someone very, very soon here. Very good offensive play calling. Chris Olave, pretty solid week, 7 targets. So you love to see Chris Olave getting more involved, 81 yards, 4 catches, no touchdown yet for Olave, but Rashid Shaheed is a incredibly electric player, 96 yards, 4 catches, and another 70-yard touchdown. It seems like he could do it every week at this point. He's a freak. And then Alvin Kamara, the week winner, 20 carries, 115, 3 touchdowns. And he also has 65 yards and a touchdown in the air. So 4 total touchdowns for Kamara, just a week winner. Could be a league winner for you at this point. He is the leading scorer in fantasy, and he's looking incredible. Derek Carr is even looking like a start in fantasy. I might just drop Goff for Carr.
Yeah, I mean, this surprisingly, the Saints have the best offense in the NFL right now. I mean, they are just absolutely going crazy. And like we just said with Baker Mayfield, throw some fab at Derek Carr because if he keeps this trajectory up, he is absolutely going off, man. I mean, he's got a connection. I mean, look at that 99.4 QBR for Derek Carr. He only completed 11 passes. He gets 2 touchdowns, goes along with 243 yards. But this offense is just firing on all cylinders. And Dennis Allen, shout out Dennis Allen, man. I mean, he's got this whole team just playing incredible. But yeah, Alvin Kamara, our fantasy king right now. I mean, 5 touchdowns through 2 weeks. He is averaging 33 points in a PPR through the through the first 2 weeks. So yeah, he might just be the league winner. We've said that a couple times about the last couple of guys, but this guy, he is outplaying the entire league. He's on a different level. He looks like rookie season Alvin Kamara. He is so fun. He is so electric. He's like got his mojo back. And this was an offensive line I was really worried about, going into this offseason. So I mean, I don't know what the Saints are on. I don't know if this is just a 2 week bender, but they are playing out of their freaking minds. And to come in here and put up 44 points on the Cowboys was just some impressive stuff, man. And then on the other side of the ball, we get into the Cowboys. CD is going to do his thing. But honestly, on this team, I'm really only trusting CD Lamb right now. I mean, obviously Jalen Tolbert has a pretty good week, 6 for 82. Luke Schoonmaker gets 6 targets for 43 yards. But I just don't know if I trust those guys on a weekly basis. I think really it's CD Lamb, and you're hoping this. I mean, just the carry share. Rico Dowdle 7, Zeke 6. Not very productive. No touchdowns. I mean, I know people are rostering both of them. I mean, you're just kind of just banking on a touchdown for them to even be relevant because the carry share is just not there.
Yeah, you can't start either of those running backs right now. You're really just hoping for a touchdown, or one of them will be a good handcuff if one gets injured, and then they're a really good start. So, yeah, with the Cowboys, I agree. You're not starting any of the running backs. You're really only excited to start CeeDee Lamb or Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's honestly not playing too great, though. Two pretty bad picks in this game. Honestly, an abysmal performance from Dak Prescott in this one. CeeDee Lamb bailed him out on a crazy touchdown, 65-yard touchdown. He has 90 yards on the day. CeeDee Lamb is that guy. He is the wide receiver one with Tua going down and Tyreek going down. And I do want to shout out Jalen Tolbert. He does lead the team in targets, 8 targets. 80 targets would be insane. 8 targets on 60 snaps, 41 routes run. So he led the team in snaps, routes run, and targets. So a pretty solid week from Jalen Tolbert. And I will say I would throw a few fab dollars at him just to secure him. I think he is someone that needs to be benched in your leagues. You can't start him yet, but someone definitely to monitor and to keep on your bench as a dart throw. He could be a nice wide receiver too in a really good offense. So I do think Jalen Tolbert is the waiver wire guy in this. And then you can drop Brandon Cooks. Pretty bad performance from Brandon Cooks. So I'm off of him. And then going back over to the Saints real quick, what you said, the offensive line is surprising everyone. Talisi Fuanga, first of all, shout out to him because he looks incredible. And then Clint Kubiak's scheme. I mean, he's just scheming this whole offense up. The offensive line looks great because of him. He is just cooking. So yeah, really, really fun performance from the Saints, and they look incredible.
Are you selling high on Rashid Shaheed?
I would. I wouldn't buy him. I would sell him over buy him. I think I just, I don't want to bank on a 70-yard touchdown every single game, only 4 targets. I probably would sell high. I wouldn't bet on the Saints to score 40 every week. What about you?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was going to say, if you happen to have Rashid Shaheed, he was drafted in our fantasy league, but I think now you go out and you try and, depending on what your team's weak at, maybe you can go get some kind of tight end, some kind of relevant running back, and see what you can cook up for Rashid Shaheed because he's right now wide receiver 9, averaging 18.6 points, PPR points per game right now. So I would definitely try and pawn him off, while the stove's hot, I should say. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's a weird analogy. I couldn't think of anything else.
no,
While
makes
the
sense.
stove is hot, man. While he's cooking right now. So try and pot him off or something. Try and get something valuable.
Yeah, this whole Saints team is in the stove right now. So yeah, I do agree. I think we're both more on the sell side than the buy side on Rashid Shaheed. Personally, maybe even Olave as well. I think Olave is a little bit more of a buy though, just because if the Saints team is going to be this good, if Derek Carr is going to be playing this good, then I wouldn't mind having Olave. I think the touchdowns will come. But let's go on to the next game. The Indianapolis Colts go into Green Bay and lose to the Packers 16-10. Shout out to the Packers. We'll talk about the home team first here. Malik Willis outplays Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson, 3 boneheaded picks in this one. He played terrible. Just a abysmal performance from Anthony Richardson, one that makes you very, very concerned for the future. But going on to the Packers, they run the ball an insane amount of times, 53 runs on the and only 14 passes. So a pretty crazy game script. But LaFleur was in his bag. He was calling up some really nice runs, some nice end arounds to Jaden Reed. It was a really, really creative day from LaFleur. So respect to them getting the win without Jordan Love at home. You love to see it in the Packers home opener. Fantasy wise, Josh Jacobs, he's definitely going to be a start, especially without Jordan Love. Josh Jacobs is going to get so much volume, 32 carries and 151. If he didn't have a fumble, it would have looked even better. That fumble on the 1 yard line, he should have had a touchdown. I don't even know how he fumbled it. No one was, I mean, a ghost stripped the ball from him. That was interesting. But Jaden Reed, a little bit concerning. I thought Jaden Reed would be quarterback proof just because you don't really need to throw downfield to get him involved. But it started off really good, and he just wasn't involved as much at the end of the game. So I'm not starting Jaden Reed. I didn't start him this week. I felt bad about it early in the game because he was getting really involved, but I don't think he's a start until Jordan Love is back. You just kind of got to wait on Jordan Love to get back in a few weeks, and Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks, you could throw a dart, but I don't think I'm starting them. I don't think I'm relying on a touchdown from them. So I really just think Josh Jacobs is the only start for the Packers.
Yeah, I think you just said that perfectly. And one thing is, yeah, I mean, I can't believe this Anthony Richardson game. I thought this would be a game where they could, really take advantage of the script, really take advantage of the Packers. But the whole Colts team in general was just very, very underwhelming. I mean, giving up 16 points is never terrible, but given the circumstances, it was pretty bad. I mean, Malik Willis walks in here in his first game as as the starting quarterback for the Packers, only 2 weeks in, comes in here and goes 12 for 14. He was pretty surgical, an 82.4 QBR compared to Anthony Richardson's 28.7. I mean, Anthony Richardson was just terrible, man. His decisions, his accuracy was just pretty bad. I mean, we have not seen enough from this guy. I mean, his from a talent aspect, from an athletic aspect, from a big arm, he's a very toolsy guy, man. But his decision making and his accuracy is just really, really questionable at this point. But from a fantasy aspect, I think it's worth throwing a few fab bucks at Alec Pierce if he's still on the waivers. He seems to be, the go-to target, the red zone target, the deep threat target for Anthony Richardson. So I think he's intriguing. I think, he's been the wide receiver one through the first 2 weeks for the Colts. And then it's crazy. The Colts literally don't have another running back. I mean, it's kind of nice for a Jonathan Taylor. He's not very productive, from a fantasy aspect because he's just not getting a lot of valuable touches. He is doing good with his touches, obviously 8.6 yards per carry there. But I mean, in the goal line, we'd like to see a touchdown. I mean, he gets 4 targets, which you like to see. It was just a weird game script. I think Jonathan Taylor will go up. I think he will play better. Just a little disappointing because when you have 103 yards, you'd like to throw in a touchdown there, but you don't get that from him. But
I
you
will
know,
say I'm a little bit nervous about his upside because he didn't play in the fourth quarter because he had two terrible drops. So he's not going to be looked at in the receiving game. So I'm a little bit nervous about his upside. I think he's like a guaranteed 12 points a game, but I don't really see him scoring over 20 that often.
Yeah, I just don't feel like, from that couple of years ago where he was just getting in the end zone, he scored what was it, like 20 something
Yeah.
touchdowns that one year. We're just kind of banking on that, and we just have not seen that Jonathan Taylor. I think he is productive on the ground. He's not great through the air. But yeah, like you said, I think he is guaranteed 12 points. I think you're going to see him be around that 80 to 100 yards and a, catch or two. But yeah, the upside, we just haven't seen it through 2 weeks.
Yep, two really bad drops from Jonathan Taylor, a little bit disappointing for me. And then speaking of disappointing, Anthony Richardson, he just made some terrible picks, some really bad reads. On one of them, it was a deep downfield shot, and he had AD Mitchell wide open, and there was two guys crossing downfield, and he chose the wrong one, the one that was double covered, and AD Mitchell was just screaming wide open. So I don't know what he was seeing on that one. Some bad stuff from Anthony Richardson. Honestly, a little bit scared about the outlook, especially playing the Bears next week. Eberflus and that pretty stacked defense will definitely make it hard on him. So going to the receivers for next week, I do agree with what you're saying. I would rather start Alec Pierce over Michael Pittman the way that they play football, the way that Anthony Richardson only looks to throw the ball downfield. I mean, Michael Pittman does get 7 targets, but only 3 catches for 21 yards. And that's because he just doesn't look to his intermediate guy, the slot guy, that often. Maybe when Josh Downs is back, Michael Pittman will move to the outside and it will be a lot better for Pittman. But I'm going to be honest, I'm benching Michael Pittman until he proves otherwise, especially in this Bears matchup. I'm not excited about Michael Pittman, which sounds crazy. And I was high on him coming into drafts, but I am a little bit out on Michael Pittman right now, the way the Anthony Richardson is playing and only going downfield. AD Mitchell, I mean, he could have had another few big plays in this one. They just weren't connected. And I would say AD Mitchell is going to be the one that gets hurt with Josh Downs coming back because Alec Pierce you can't take out right now. So I'm a little bit scared for AD Mitchell's future as well. I predicted a big game from him. I was wrong there. I'll take my L. And I think that's about it for the Colts and Packers.
Yeah, it pretty much sums up the whole thing. Hopefully for the Colts, Anthony Richardson just gets a little bit more on track this week, and hopefully we see a little bit more of that excitement and the right decisions. But it is a little concerning, but it was a weird game.
Weird games. Speaking of weird games, man, some weird scores in these games this week and some really unpredictable scores to say the least. We'll go on to our next game. The San Francisco 49ers go into Minnesota and lose to the Vikings 23-17. No one predicted this one. I definitely did not predict this one. I had the Niners covering the spread, and I was Wrong. Brian Flores' scheme had Brock Purdy in hell. So we'll start it off with the Vikings first. The Vikings played a really, really solid game. Sam Darnold in his revenge game looked really nice. He's looked very solid these first 2 weeks. So you love to see that. That 97-yard touchdown from Jettas was just absolutely electric. It looked like it was going to be one of those classic blow up, complete week winning Jefferson games, but he does go down with injury. Still ends up with 4 catches, 133 yards, and a touchdown through the air. Some beautiful stuff from Jefferson. It looks like he's going to be back this week as well, which is pretty big. If he does miss a week, you're really only starting Jordan Addison if he plays, and that's it. I'm not really looking to, go and pick up Jalen Naylor. I think that's only if Jefferson's out and you really are in a really deep league and you need that dart throw. But Jordan Addison's really the only start, and I'm not starting Addison if Jefferson's playing. And then Aaron Jones has a pretty bad day on the ground, 9 carries for 32 yards compared to Ty Chandler, 10 carries, 82 yards, which is a little bit scary, but Aaron Jones at least gives you a pretty nice receiving floor with 5 catches for 36 yards. So you do have that. You're not benching him. So right now it's just you're starting Aaron Jones, you're starting Jefferson, and if Jefferson's out, you're starting Addison. I think that's it for the Vikings right now.
Yeah, you summed it up pretty perfectly. And that, like you said, that 97-yard touchdown by Justin Jefferson was a thing of beauty. Obviously, he goes out with injury. Hopefully, I don't think we've heard too much of it. Have you heard any more today?
I did hear that he should be playing this week. It would be something would have to happen in practice for him to not play this week, I think.
Okay, so things are trending positive. So that's a good thing. And yeah, like you said, from a fantasy aspect, obviously you start Aaron Jones, it's Justin Jefferson, of course, because he's one of the best players in fantasy football. And then Jordan Addison, we'll see when he gets healthy and he's back. But yeah, I mean, and switching over to the San Francisco 49ers saying, what a weird game. I mean, Brian Flores really came up with an incredible scheme and really just, had the 49ers struggling, to put points on the board. I mean, 17 for the 49ers. I was expecting this to be like more of a 34-point game for them. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's out, but you have Jordan Mason over here, 20 carries, 100 yards, and a touchdown. He's pretty incredible. He's a pretty good running back. But yeah, they just kind of got outplayed by the Vikings, and I give all credit to Brian Flores on this. And then I mean, from a fantasy aspect, it's whoever the starting running back for the 49ers is will always be productive. Deebo Samuel has himself a hell of a game with 10 targets, 8 receptions, 110 yards. George Kittle, one of the few fantasy tight ends that is relevant at the moment, having, I think, the best game of the week for the fantasy tight ends with 8 targets, 7 receptions, 76 yards, and finds his way into the end zone. And tell me this, are you a little concerned about Brandon Ayuk for how high people had to pay for him?
I was getting a little bit concerned about Ayuk. I knew they would ease him in slowly because of the holdout. But now that Debo is out with CMC out, I mean, Ayuk has to be that literally the intermediate focal point in the receiving game. So you have to be a little bit excited about Ayuk and Kittle, honestly, just because unfortunately that Debo injury looks like he could be out a few weeks.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, this was a weird game, one that I could not have predicted, one that we both got wrong, sadly, in our pick'ems.
Yeah, just a weird game. I was saying that the 49ers were perfect after week one. I was saying they were just the most best looking team in the NFL and nothing could stop them. So I was definitely wrong on this one. But yeah, Jordan Mason, George
Sam
Kittle.
Darnold's just playing surgical football too, man.
Yes.
He's I don't know. I mean, the Jets and Adam Gase, obviously I never thought we really got a fair look at Sam Darnold. He was in a pretty terrible situation. He was seeing ghosts in New York. But I don't know, maybe with Kevin O'Connell, a quarterback guru, we can kind of see a Geno, type resurgence from him.
Yep, Sam Darnold looked really, really solid in the revenge game. Any waiver wire pickups for the 49ers? I don't think that I'm really rushing to go get Juwan Jennings, and he would be the only guy to replace Devo. So I just think it's going to be really consolidated with, Kittle, Ayuk, and Jordan Mason. I'm not looking. I mean, you could pick up Juwan Jennings in a deeper league, but you're definitely not starting him. Anything else?
No, I'm not touching you. You got your big time stars that, they're just gonna get more carries and more touches. So
Absolutely, totally agreed with that. We'll go on to our next game. The New York Jets go into Tennessee, beat the Titans 24-17, and a sweaty game. Not gonna lie, it was looking like the Titans could have won this one. Honestly, it was a very back and forth, close game. The Jets did not look too solid at all, to be honest. Aaron Rodgers gets the 2 touchdowns though. Brees Hall, Braylon Allen have really big days. Brees Hall is 62 on the ground with 52 receiving yards with the receiving touchdown, and then Braylon Allen gets 33 on the ground with the rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown with 23 in the air. So both the running backs have really big days. Braylon Allen is a very high upside handcuff back that you definitely need to roster in your leagues. Obviously, if Brees Hall goes down, you can call him a top 12, top 15 back. Garrett Wilson, I would say I would go by Garrett Wilson, only 4 catches, 57 yards. I would go by Garrett Wilson. He's the receiver in this offense. It's really no one else. The next closest receivers to him are Mike Williams with 1 catch, Allen Lazard with 2 catches. You gotta see if your Garrett Wilson manager is a little bit underwhelmed and go get him, because I think he's in for bigger weeks down the line. So I think that's really the takeaways for the Jets. Know when you're adding. Obviously, Allen Lazard doesn't do nearly as well week 2 with Mike Williams getting more involved here. Mike Williams has 37 snaps compared to Lazard's 47, and Mike Williams only had like 15 in week 1. So he's ramping it up, and you're really just starting Brees Hall and Garrett Wilson right now, and then you're rostering Allen Lazard and Mike Williams, but you just can't start them, and then you're rostering Braylon Allen as well.
Yeah, if Braylon Allen is still on your waivers, I think he is worth some fat bucks. Somehow, some dude named Dan Antonio Clowns picked him up Sunday, September 15th at 10:28 a.m., 32 minutes before the fantasy game started. I don't know what kind of juju Dan has or what kind of sorcery he pulled on that, but that was pretty funny to see.
I had an epiphany. The football gods, the fantasy gods were telling me I needed to pick him up for some reason, and it paid off.
It definitely paid off. But, from the Titans side of things, I think you're pretty excited about Tony Pollard, honestly. I think he's, one of going to be, 17 carries. He's completely taken over this offense, in carries and touches from really anyone else. I mean, you're looking at this 17 carries, 6 targets, 5 receptions, 40 yards. He's pretty exciting. And obviously Calvin Ridley, a hell of a week. He gets a touchdown on the ground, and then he has an incredible catch, double coverage on Sauce Gardner, which was just one of the crazier catches I saw this week that I've seen. I don't know how he came down with that, but that was pretty exciting. It's fun to see Calvin Ridley get involved. But outside of those two, I'm not touching anyone else. I'm not excited about anyone else in this offense. It's just those two. But I mean, the Titans defense and everything, they're kind of just a scrappy team that you don't want to play. And they're just barely losing these games, and just stuff is not falling their ways. And Will Levis is just kind of doing weird stuff, but he makes some good plays. So I'm just this Titans team confuses me. I don't understand it.
Yeah, Will Levis is kind of giving out Sam Howell vibes right now with some nice downfield throws, and then he'll just make the most boneheaded play that you'll see all week. He does it again. He has 2 of the most boneheaded plays that you'll see through the first 2 weeks. Obviously, Bryce Young's right up there with him as well. And yeah, like you said, that Calvin Ridley catch over Sauce, I thought Sauce had that for a second, and then the next thing I know, it's in Ridley's basket. That was a pretty incredible concentration catch from Calvin Ridley. Very solid day for Calvin Ridley fantasy owners. And then Tony Pollard, man, Tyjae Spears goes out with injury. So Tony Pollard managers are really, really looking forward to the next few weeks. I think Tony Pollard has a few breakout games coming his way with some touchdowns. And then, yeah, like you said, there's no one else in this offense. Chingo Conquo can be rostered. You're not starting him. And then Tyler Boyd, Callahan brings him over from Cincinnati. He does get 5 targets. He does run 30 routes. So you can roster Tyler Boyd if you're in a really deep league. It sounds a little bit gross though, and you're definitely not starting him. So really is just Ridley and Pollard right now.
Yeah, it was, good to see the Jets, get a much needed win. It was a closer game than I expected, honestly, but they came out of there with a scrappy win. And I think I think you saw a lot from the running backs, to get really excited moving forward for the Jets.
Yep. And then speaking of fun game, let's go on to this fun game for stores. The Chargers go into Carolina, beat the Panthers 26-3, beat the doors off of Bryce Young. They blast him into the bench. They blast him into Andy Dalton starting. It's actually pretty crazy. I mean, I feel like personally, Bryce Young was playing so bad. You just want to keep him out there and just ensure the #1 overall pick at this point. I mean, I was honestly a little bit surprised, honestly disagree with the decision to bench him a little bit, not condemning his play at all, but I do think it was a little bit premature. It seems like Dave Canales is kind of trying to save face here with that decision. Obviously, terrible game from Bryce Young. Shout out to the Chargers defense. We said to start the Chargers defense over any defense. They were our stream of the week defensively. They could be this week against the Steelers as well. Who plays the Panthers this week? You picked them up, right?
Oh, for a fantasy for
Yeah. Pick them
no,
up.
no, I think I did pick up the defense in the last second. I dropped them for the Texans defense because I had an epiphany that they were going to be good. But
Uh,
let me pull it up
is it
real.
like the Raiders that play them this week?
It might. Oh wait, it actually might be the Raiders.
A little
Uh,
bit premature anyway, but you're starting whoever plays the Panthers, even though Andy Dalton's a little bit scarier.
Oh, it is the Raiders. Yes, I did. You know, you're right. I did pick them up. I picked them up for that exact reason.
Yeah.
You're
I,
right. All right. I picked up two. I'm stashing two defenses. I always kind of have an agenda, where I'm looking 2 weeks in advance. If your league allows you to stash two defenses, I kind of do it for a strategy. So I'm always looking 2 weeks in advance, looking for the Panthers, looking for
yeah.
who plays Daniel Jones,
Yeah.
just so I can have that extra hand up, those extra few points that really matter in fantasy.
Yeah. So go pick up the Raiders. This is kind of our waiver wire episode anyway. So go pick up
Max.
the Raiders. Anyone that's playing the Panthers, Max Crosby is going to go crazy.
Yeah, and Andy Dalton, Bryce Young. I don't think it matters. You're playing Max Crosby. I mean, he pretty much single-handedly got himself a win. Him and Devontae Adams versus the Ravens. So that was pretty crazy. But getting into this game, it was pretty exciting. The Chargers came in here. They did what was expected. The Panthers were 0-9 going into the or 0 yeah, 0 for 9 on third down attempts going into the fourth quarter, like 6 minutes into the fourth quarter when they finally got their first down conversion. But yeah, just pretty terrible. Bryce Young, I don't completely blame him. I just don't feel like the receivers are getting separation. I don't feel like the line's holding up, and I feel like he is just kind of the scapegoat for Dave Canales, for David Tepper, for this team. They're using him as the scapegoat because I think there is a lot of potential in Bryce Young, but I feel kind of bad. I feel like this team has just ruined his confidence. They did pump a lot of money into this team, which just makes no sense. They're not a little bit better. I mean, you spend $100 million on the offensive line, you bring in Deontay Johnson, you have Adam Thielen, but there is no identity. They haven't established a run game. The offense hasn't established any kind of momentum, so they're just terrible. They're just a terrible football team. There's no identity, and it kind of reminds me have like a really bad roster, but not even that bad with like a coach like Brandon Staley coaching and then just scapegoating Bryce Young. But from the Chargers side, pretty boring football. It's defense. Justin Herbert is going out there, completing 14 passes. He doesn't have to do too much because the Chargers have established his run game. J.K. Dobbins is another league winner right now, averaging 21 fantasy points per game. He's getting explosive runs. He's getting a touchdown every single week. He looks awesome. And shout out to Quentin Johnston, man. I think this was definitely a game script game for him. I wouldn't get too excited. I wouldn't expect 2 touchdowns every week or 5 receptions. But it just felt like the game script was there. And, he had a pretty good week, but I still am having Lad McConkey as the wide receiver one. He doesn't do too great in this, but I wouldn't panic too much.
Yep, summed up well. Justin Herbert obviously was a big game manager in this week, like you expected, though, just because they were going to control this game from the start, as everyone expected. So you could expect more passing volume against a team like the Steelers next week for Herbert if you are in a super flex league. And yeah, J.K. Dobbins, man, just looks so damn explosive. 7.7 yards per carry compared to Gus Edwards at 3.3, who out carries J.K. Dobbins. Let's not do that, Chargers. Let's not give Gus Edwards 18 carries ever again. And I do think this will be the last time that we see him out carrying J.K. Dobbins. I understand, lessening the load for Dobbins and letting him, stay healthier throughout the season and preserving him. But that is a little bit ridiculous. You can't be giving Gus Edwards 18 carries in any other game the rest of the season. And yeah, J.K. Dobbins is just so much more explosive. Another 43-yard run. He's just ripping off long, explosive runs. Just a crazy, crazy stuff from Dobbins. He is a top 20 back. You do have to start him. He is even getting some receiving work as well. He is their third down back. So J.K. Dobbins is looking like a steal of drafts, if not the steal of drafts. And then I never thought I would say this, but Quentin Johnston is someone they have to roster. You're definitely not starting him right now until really proven otherwise, but you do have to roster Quentin Johnston. He actually looked pretty solid in week one as well. Some, drops and incompletions went his way. I took the over on Will Dissly 7 yards. I don't know why that line was so low. I'm happy about that performance. And then Lad McConkey, a little bit scary of a performance, but like I said, you were controlling this game from the start. This is just a weird game script. You're not going to be playing the Panthers every single week, so you can
You ran
expect.
the ball 44 times.
Yeah,
You ran the ball 44 times to 20 passes. It definitely looked like, it was a game script. It was a Greg Roman type of offense. And honestly, why you didn't need Justin Herbert to throw the ball. You didn't need him to be Superman. You just needed these backs to get the hard-earned, yards. But next week it'll be interesting playing TJ Watt and an absolute steel curtain on the Steelers defensive line.
yeah, you can start the Chargers defense as well next week. So I definitely, yeah, I'm going to be starting the Chargers defense in a lot of leagues. Anything else you want to say in this game?
Just crazy. I mean, I feel bad for all the hot takes and everything, but I feel bad for Bryce Young, man. A 6.5 QBR. I didn't even know you could go that low. So just just pretty terrible stuff. You can't even really start anyone. I mean, I can you start Chuba Hubbard?
No,
That's how
no, no,
desperate.
no, 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 no. You can't start anyone. No, 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 no.
Yeah, you don't even look at this Panthers team. They're irrelevant. It's chalked. It's sad, but they're irrelevant. We're looking
Everyone
for
needs to be dropped. Deontay Johnson, you can keep for like one more week. Maybe Andy Dalton likes him, but that is it. That is it.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible, and no more Panthers hot takes. Sadly that train has come to an end.
Rip to our Panthers hot take era. Rip to the Bryce Young era. A little bit depressing. I do feel bad for the kid, 100%. But let's go on to the next game. A crazy game, crazy outcome that no one predicted. The Las Vegas Raiders go into Baltimore and beat the Ravens 26-23 in a crazy comeback, crazy ending. One of the best games of the week, if not the best game of the week. Brock Bowers is a league winner. That's all I got to say. Brock Bowers is absolutely unreal. 9 targets, again, 9 catches, 98 yards. Just wait till he gets touchdowns. He is gonna blow up. I mean, we loved him as a prospect. We said he's a generational tight end. I think he's the best tight end prospect of all time. I really think he's that caliber of athlete, the way that you can use him in so many different positions and in ways. He is awesome. I didn't expect this in this Raiders offense with Gardner Minshew. I will say that I had him, a little bit lower in rankings because of that, but he is just shocking the world. I'll be honest, I don't know what tight ends I'm taking over him. I think he's the tight end two rest of season. I think he's the tight end two right now. I think he is literally that guy. Him and Trey McBride are those top two tight ends right now. So shout out to Brock Bowers. He is just looking awesome. 9 catches on 12 targets for Devontae Adams, 110 yards and a touchdown. He really turned it on there that second half, that fourth quarter, and came through for his team, won the game for his team, really. So beautiful stuff from Devontae Adams. That's really all you're starting in this receiving room. And then in the backfield, you're not starting anyone because Zamir White gets 9 carries. Alexander Madison gets 4. Alexander Madison's the one that gets into the end zone, but Amir Abdullah gets involved in this game. So the only 2 players are starting in this offense are Devontae and Bowers. But man, they're pretty electric. They're pretty fun. You're pretty excited about them. Rip to Michael Mayer, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. Rip Michael Mayer. But yeah, what a performance by the Raiders. And this was kind of like one I thought would be an absolute beatdown. I thought the Baltimore Ravens were a lock. I was completely wrong. The Raiders came in here, they were scrappy. Max Crosby playing like his hair is lit on fire every single snap. They looked angry. And yeah, I mean, they came in here to win. Obviously, it came down to the final seconds, but I mean, they've got something special. We obviously knew it from day one. We knew it from the draft. Brock Bowers is special. I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes as tight end one this season. In back-to-back games, his first 2 games as a rookie, he's getting 8 targets, 9 targets. He already has 15 receptions on the season. He is tight end two at the moment with 15.3 points per game. And like you said, wait till this kid gets into the end zone. He's got incredible yards after the catch ability. He's only gonna get better. So, I mean, he's just going to be scary. And Devontae Adams is just awesome. I mean, he looks like prime Devontae Adams in this game. Going against a tough Ravens, team in secondary, but the Ravens kind of fell asleep at the wheel. I just feel like the Ravens haven't really I don't know. I can't figure it out. It doesn't feel like they're starting out 0-2. Obviously they've lost, almost in like a Chargerly fashion, you're losing right at the end of the game, blowing it. But I don't know. I don't feel like the Ravens have really found their identity. I feel like, their offensive line struggles. I feel like the defense is, a little underwhelming, allowing 26 points to, to the Las Vegas Raiders. maybe losing Mike McDonald was a bigger departure than really noticed. But yeah, it is a little concerning. However, I do think they'll get back on track. I'm not super panicking. I mean, we see teams do this all the time, like the Bengals are 0-2 and almost beat the Chiefs last week. So it's nothing to really panic about. But from a fantasy aspect, you love to see Zay Flowers getting 11 targets, 91 yards, and a touchdown. Mark Andrews finds himself back in this game. He only has 9.1 fantasy points, but he does get 5 targets, 4 receptions, and 51 yards. Isaiah Likely comes back down to earth. I think you still roster him. I think you still hang on to him. And then Derrick Henry, obviously carrying the rock 18 times for 84 yards and a touchdown. Nothing too much through the air, 1 target for 12 yards. But you know what you're doing. You're obviously starting Derrick Henry, Lamar, Zay Flowers, and I think you feel comfortable starting Mark Andrews, and you hold on to Isaiah Likely and hope he gets a little bit more involved next week.
Yeah, summed up perfectly. You summed it up all. I totally agree with everything you said. The Ravens fans are freaking out on Twitter right now, and you are. I'm with you on that. I am very disappointed in the Ravens. I do think the departures of your really good coaches, your really solid players like Patrick Queen, are hurting a little bit more than people led on. But yeah, fantasy wise, you're obviously not excited about starting Derrick Henry. There is no ceiling there, which is a little bit unfortunate. But you can't expect him to get a touchdown every week. Hopefully most weeks when he doesn't, it will be a little bit rough. I'm not gonna lie. Then receiving wise, Zay Flowers looks electric. He looks like a wide receiver too. He's a very, very, very solid option with the 11 targets, obviously 91 receiving yards, 7 catches, and a touchdown. He looks awesome. And then Mark Andrews, he gets 5 targets, so that is better. And Isaiah Likely 3 targets, not exciting at all. Can't be starting him. Mark Andrews, you can start. You're just not too excited about it. All of his catches kind of came at the end. But Zay Flowers, you're very excited for Lamar Jackson. You're obviously going to start. You're just hoping for more touchdown production and yeah, just more execution from the Ravens at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. And I think they'll get back on pace. I just think they got to find a new identity, and their defense has got to find an identity.
Absolutely. And with that, let's go on to the next game. The Seahawks, who went into New England, beat the Patriots 23-20 in a really, really solid game. Geno Smith looked awesome, man. Geno Smith was throwing the ball, just tossing the pill all around the field. And in Foxborough, he looked really, really rejuvenated. 33 for 44, a very efficient day, 103 quarterback rating. I was really impressed by Geno Smith. But the story of this game, 16 targets for Jackson Smith and Jigba, 12 catches, 117 yards. After that first game, I was saying you can't be starting JSN. I take back everything I said. You got to get him in your lineups because 16 targets in the slot from JSN is pretty electric. A PPR merchant, a PPR machine. I'm pretty excited for JSN moving forward. I would maybe even target him. Obviously, it's a very buy high moment, but I do think he's going to have a very good season. DK Metcalf gets that long 56-yard touchdown, 129 yards on 10 catches against this really, really good Patriots secondary. I was wrong on that one. I thought he would be a little bit limited with this really solid Patriots secondary, but he completely goes off. Tyler Lockett, you can drop him out on Lockett with JSN. He really emerging here, really exciting from JSN. And then that's it from the receivers. And then Zach Charbonnet, as long as Kenneth Walker's out, you do have to start him. I'll be honest, he looks like a bad running back. 2.7 yards per carry. He's not really a good running back, I'll just be honest, but you do have to start him. He's a must start if Kenneth Walker is out. He will be getting a touchdown. He'll be, getting 5 targets. He's a solid option.
Yeah, 100%. This was an interesting game. We kind of went into this one not feeling very confident. Felt like this was going to be very scrappy, and it was. New England put up a hell of a fight in this one. I mean, it was very, very close. Obviously comes down, to overtime and a field goal to win for the Seattle Seahawks, but a very scrappy game. Um I mean, this run game from New England is pretty good, pretty successful and pretty good. Obviously, you see Gibson, the more productive running back there, 11 carries for 96 yards, and then you have Ramondre, 21 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown. From the Patriots side of the ball, I think, maybe you could stash Antonio Gibson, and hopefully he gets a little bit more involved in the passing game going forward. But Ramondre Stevenson is just so solid, man. He is a must start every single week. I really think he's the only one I feel comfortable, starting on a week-to-week basis. But Hunter Henry also has himself a hell of a game. I think he's worth, a couple fab bucks right now. He gets 12 targets, 8 receptions, 109 yards. Hunter Henry kind of always does this a couple times a year. So I'm not super confident it's going to be, a weekly basis where he's getting 12 targets, but I think he definitely is worth a stash because I think given on the matchup, he could be successful.
Yeah, he leads the team in snaps and routes run, and obviously targets and yards. So he is looking like a fun option. He is the second highest target share receiver in the entire NFL behind Malik Neighbors this week.
Wow.
So pretty big week from Hunter Henry. You definitely need to roster him. He shouldn't be on waivers. And yeah, but how scary tight ends are, I think he could be a nice dart throw at tight end every single week, which is at least nice. Jacoby Brissett can provide some type of baseline for him. So that's good. If you're down bad at tight end, I think Hunter Henry is a nice little pickup. Anything else you want to say in this game? A pretty solid game, actually.
Yeah, just kind of what I expected. There wasn't too much. I did expect the Seahawks to win, but I expected the Patriots to put up a fight. And both two very scrappy teams, both with rookie head coaches, and impressed by both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's about it on this game. Let's go to the last morning game, 1 p.m. game. The Giants go into Washington, lose to the Commanders 21-18. Man, just like exactly how we said it before in our preview. It was the shit fest of the week. It ended up being the shit fest of the week. It was just a shit fest. This whole game was gross. A shitty game, man. Jaden Daniels doesn't do too much through the air at all. He doesn't do too much through the ground at all. He does get hurt. He's got to be a little bit more cautious when running. He's getting hit a lot, and it's only week 2, so that is a little bit scary. You do want to see Jaden Daniels be a little bit more careful, and obviously no touchdowns is a little bit unfortunate in fantasy, but you're really optimistic about him moving forward. He is a must start because of that rushing ability. Scary Terry, I'll just say I'm out on Scary Terry, similar to what I said about Amari Cooper. If you can sell him for something competent, I would sell him. It's hard to sell him so low, but man, I am just completely out on Terry McLaurin. This was the one game all year where I thought maybe you could just have a good game with him and then just sell him high. But no, even against the Giants, he gets 8 targets and he just looks abysmal. Terrible, terrible stuff. 6 catches for 22 yards from him. He's getting outplayed by Zach Ertz, Noah Brown. So I am out on Terry McLaurin. I'll be honest, I'm just trying to get off of him at this point. Austin Eckler looks pretty fun. Had a kickoff return touchdown that gets called back. He gets 47 receiving yards on 3 catches. He gets 38 yards on the ground. Austin Eckler looks fun, and Brian Robinson Jr. looks like a real star. Honestly, 133 rushing yards. He could be a very, very nice RB2 option. He was a very nice value in drafts if you drafted him as an RB2. So really love Brian Robinson moving forward. Jaden Daniels is a must start. I think Eckler could be started in a dart throw situation. He definitely needs to be rostered, and I don't mind him in a PPR league. And then receiver wise, I'm out on everyone. You could start Zach Ertz if you're really, really, really down bad at tight end, but I'm not relying on him every week. It's just more of a Cliff Kingsbury just has an affection for infatuation for Zach Ertz for some reason.
Yeah. Interesting game. I mean, like we said, it was a shit fest. And, somehow Daniel Jones and the Giants do something that no one's ever done before, and that is score 3 touchdowns and allow 0 touchdowns and still lose the game. So, whoever had the Commanders kicker, shout out to you. That was a play. He puts up what was his fantasy? I gotta look it up. What was his fantasy points this week? The Commanders kicker. What even is his name? Why can't I think of it?
Austin Seibert. Let me see here.
Oh, he only puts up 22 points.
Yeah, I
He
mean, I guess he put up exactly what the Commanders put up.
yeah,
He
so
scored
yeah,
all
yeah.
their
So
points too.
so all of his field goals, I believe, were in front were I think one he hit one from 40 and the rest were from 30 yards and in. So you don't get any, you don't get any extra points from hitting anything long, but incredible game. He puts up 22 points. He puts up every single point for the Commanders. But I think you summed up, pretty good from the fantasy aspect of Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, and Jaden Daniels. On the other side, it's only Malik Neighbors, man. And it was a fun week from Malik Neighbors. 18 targets, 10 receptions, 127 yards, and a touchdown. This guy does look like a real superstar. He looks incredible. I'm super excited about Malik Neighbors' future. I think he's going to be an all-star. I think he's going to be all pro. I think he's just, I saw it from the league neighbors in this game, even with the terrible Daniel Jones. And then Devin Singletary had a good week, 16 carries, 95 yards, 5.9 on the ground, averaging one touchdown. He also gets, one target, 0 yards. I think he's worth rostering. I feel a little suspect starting him on a week basis. It depends how deep your league is, how many people in your league, how many flex spots you have. He's definitely worth rostering. He's worth holding on to. I You're just kind of banking on him to get a touchdown though. You're banking on him getting a red zone touchdown, which he might be productive. He is obviously the lead back in this field, but I am a little suspect. Are you confident in Devin Singletary? What do you make of him?
I honestly think this will be his best game of the entire year. Honestly, just these Commanders games are going to be easy matchups. I'm not starting him. He can be rostered, but I'm not really just starting anyone other than the neighbors in this Giants offense. And I just don't trust the output that it'll put out. But speaking of output, man, 10 catches, 127 yards, a touchdown on 18 targets from Malik Neighbors, a 67% target share from Malik Neighbors, the highest we've seen since 2013. Like I said, he is 2013 Odell Beckham Jr., and he's looking like it. He is absolutely insane. He is so fun. The Giants' next quarterback is going to have some fun throwing to this guy. He is absolutely electric, a game changer. I just can't wait to see what quarterback they get to pair him with, honestly. And that is it, though. You're just starting Malik Neighbors. You can roster Singletary. Wan'Dale Robinson is a drop, even though he scores a touchdown. Crazy to say. And that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, Malik Neighbors does look like Odell, dude. It's a little crazy. He moves and looks a little like Odell. I don't know if it's the LSU to the Giants connection or something, and I'm just like just putting it together like that. But I just feel like he runs routes. He plays like Odell. He snatches the ball out of the air like Odell. It's just I see a lot of similarities there, man.
He looks just incredible. The rack, the ball skills. He just looks like an awesome receiver, an absolute superstar already. With that, we'll go on to the next game. One that Stores is really excited to talk about. The LA Rams go into Arizona, lose to the Cardinals 41-10. I don't even really want to talk about this. I bet on the Rams. I was really high on the Rams winning this game, and they got embarrassed. So I'll let you yap about the Cardinals, man. This was crazy.
Shout out to me. I do have a Marvin Harrison and Kyler Murray stack, so it was an incredible first half of the game, at least for me. I was at the grocery store. I'm watching, NFL Red Zone on my phone, and next thing I know, I'm seeing, almost 60 fantasy points combined from Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. So it was a really fun game. It was a really fun get right game from that, that little disappointing start to the season versus Buffalo. But Marvin Harrison Jr., like we just talked about, Malik Neighbors, looks like a real star. Gets 8 targets. He only comes down with 4 of them for 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, has a 60-yard touchdown. He just looked really awesome, but they just didn't need to do too much with him. I mean, it was fun. He should have almost had 2 more touchdowns. Kyler Murray just throws a little bit too behind him on two one-on-one fades, in the red zone that they just happen to not come down with. But I mean, Kyler Murray too, man. Kyler Murray looks like MVP football out there. He is the way he's moving, the way he's scrambling, I mean, 5 for 59 on the ground. He's moving different. He's creating plays. His touchdown to Michael Wilson was pretty incredible. I mean, just the scramble effect, just the unique playability. Kyler Murray looks like he's back. I think people forgot Kyler Murray's gone through injuries. He's gone through hardships with this team. And I feel like he's just right. He's at his best right now. He's got good receivers and he looks like a league winner, man. He's just playing some awesome football. And Marvin Harrison Jr., 4 receptions for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns all in one quarter was pretty impressive. I wish we could have seen a little bit more throughout the other 3 quarters, but it was a pretty impressive game. He almost could have had 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, definitely. And Kyler really was dealing. He was absolutely dealing, playing some beautiful football, confident, running around, making some crazy accurate throws, just threading needles. Obviously, that touchdown to Elijah Higgins was ridiculous. Marvin Harrison Jr., yeah, like you said, they really could have had 4 touchdowns. He only had 4 incompletions, Kyler, and those were all four to Marvin Harrison Jr. So just think about how scary that connection can be moving forward. Super positive for Marvin and Kyler fantasy owners. Obviously, James Conner, speaking of positive, you're really excited to be his fantasy owner as well. Just a lot of volume, 21 carries, 122 yards always going to get that rushing touchdown. He's just a lock every week. Take his overs, and then he gets a catch as well. So James Conner, electric. Trey McBride, he might be. I mean, he is definitely the tight end one rest of season. The tight end one in week 3. Obviously, falls in the end zone and gets that fumble recovery touchdown, but still 6 catches, 67 yards. Kyler was threading some really nice balls to McBride, and they really trust him with the 6 targets, right behind Marvin's 8. So yeah, those are the 3 guys in this Cardinals offense, and obviously Kyler as well that you're really really excited about. On to the Rams. Cooper Kupp goes down. Puka Nacua is already down. It's getting really depressing. Their entire offensive line is already pretty much down. Jonah Jackson on IR, Steve Avila on IR. It's getting pretty depressing for the Rams right now. You've just got Kyron Williams, who is not efficient on the ground at all because of that offensive line just being so brutal. 12 carries for 25 yards. He falls into the end zone, but man, it was a rough outing for Kyron. That offensive line is just not helping him and Stafford at all. Stafford played abysmal, didn't really keep this team in the game at all. Obviously, it was kind of hard to do so with Marvin Harrison and Kyler blowing up. But yeah, Stafford looking, just Stafford and Kyron are a little bit scary with this offensive line, I'll be honest. Fantasy wise, you got to prioritize Demarcus Robinson. He will be the wide receiver 1 in this offense. And then after that, it's just a bunch of dart throws. Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, Tyler Johnson. Those are the dart throws. By the way, Stores, remember the player that right before a fantasy draft, I said that there was a player I would definitely come away with in the last round of the draft. I can tell you now that was Jordan Whittington. I thought that he would be a lot more involved. I would have picked him up after week 1 if I saw, obviously when Puka got hurt. If he played more, he had a touchdown that got called back, but I did expect a little bit more from Jordan Whittington. I thought he was going to be like a Puka Nacua of this season, but I don't really think he's someone that you can be excited about. Sadly, it is more Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, and Tyler Johnson.
So funny. I've been wondering, for almost 3 weeks now since our fantasy draft. I've been laughing. I'm just like, who the hell is? I thought it was Devon Vela, if I was being completely honest with you. That's
Nope.
so funny. I would have never in a million years guessed it was Jordan Whittington. Written down on Dan's draft card. No matter what, Jordan Whittington will be on the Dan Antonio Clowns roster. But yeah, wow, that's pretty hilarious. Maybe next week. Maybe now that you said that, maybe we'll spark some good vibes for the Rams. Like you said, it's just kind of a bunch of dart throws. Obviously, you're starting Kyron going forward, and I think that's the only person you're confident in on this Rams team. I mean, Blake Corum gets a little involved at the end with 8 carries for 28 yards. Obviously, in a dynasty aspect, you're still not feeling confident enough to start him. You do hang on to him. But yeah, just a bunch of dart throws on this Rams team. I do trust Sean McVay and the coaching staff to work with, not great players and get involved. But it is going to be interesting who becomes Matthew Stafford's, go-to read, because the last 2 years it's been Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua. He stares down one receiver. So I feel like somebody's bound to do good, but I don't know. I don't know if these guys are talented enough. It's just gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a dart throw, but I feel like one player, whoever it is, maybe it's Demarcus Robinson, maybe it's Tutu Atwell. I could see Tutu Atwell kind of being that guy. I feel like he's always had an okay chemistry. I just don't see him being like that Cooper Kupp though. I don't see really anyone on this team who can be that guy to get 18 targets.
Yeah, no one's going to be that big target leader. I do trust that Demarcus Robinson will be the wide receiver 1 with Stafford. It seems like they have a little bit of a connection being built, especially downfield. But yeah, no one to be really excited about. I'm only starting Demarcus Robinson personally, and then you can throw a dart at Tyler Johnson or Tutu Atwell, and then yeah, that's about it. Kyron Williams, you're starting, but you're just a little bit sad because of the offensive line, the entire offensive line going down. Same with Stafford. It really hurts them both. But let's go on to the next game. A very electric, crazy game. We knew it would be the game of the week, honestly, just by the matchup itself. Joe Burrow really delivered in Kansas City, goes in there and loses by 1, 26-25. The Chiefs come away with it. A little bit of an unsatisfying victory, I would say personally, as an unbiased watcher. I would say the Bengals outplayed the Chiefs. They definitely should have won this game if it wasn't for some boneheaded penalties at the end there, but we'll start it off with the Chiefs, I guess. Patrick Mahomes, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 2 pretty bad picks, actually. And he was playing game manager ball here, just throwing it dink and dunk, not throwing over the middle of the field, not really throwing downfield except for that one beautiful touchdown to Rashee Rice. So Patrick Mahomes, as a fantasy, player, as a fantasy asset, I think he'll be a little bit better moving forward with Pacheco going down, which is a good transition into the running backs, Isaiah Pacheco, goes on IR. So that is very unfortunate. It looks like they're bringing in Kareem Hunt, which is the only player I would pick up and throw a dart at. I'm not really excited about Carson Steele or Salmaje P. Ryan, if I'm being honest. I think it's just Kareem Hunt and just throw the dart and see if it sticks. But I'm not really expecting too much from Carson Steele. You definitely can pick him up, but not someone I'm starting right now. And then Rashee Rice, obviously another great week, 5 catches, 75 yards, the 44-yard touchdown, 6 targets. He's just awesome. He's a wide receiver 1 right now in fantasy. And then Travis Kelce, another game with 1 catch, 3 targets. He's not looking like your favorite Travis Kelce of years ago. He's not that same guy. He is maybe he will be a little bit more involved with Pacheco going down. You can be a little bit more excited about him. You can't bench him quite yet. But man, it's not exciting right now with Mahomes or Kelce, and hopefully they just throw it a lot more without Pacheco because they really did run the offense through him. He is just an incredible player, honestly. Even watching this game, Pacheco really stood out as just a complete stud.
Similar to last year, I think this is a lot of what we're going to see through the Chiefs until it really comes down to crunch time. It's the run first Chiefs. It's the boring offense Chiefs. Obviously, Rashee Rice is awesome, man. I think he's one of the fantasy winners of your leagues. If you knew he wasn't going to get suspended and you went and drafted him, it's really going to pay off because he has just been solid. 18 points in back-to-back weeks from Rashee Rice. But yeah, it's just kind of a boring Chiefs offense, and they just do enough to win, and the luck and the turnovers and whatever it is, at the end of the game, you make one mistake, the Chiefs will make you pay, and that's exactly 4th and 16. There's no reason to even come close to creating a PI. You just play your guys all pretty much at the line and you just knock down the ball wherever Mahomes throws it. But, we've seen this script, we've seen this story too many times. We knew all what was going to happen on 4th and 16. It was like it was just a movie that it's like Groundhog's Day. We've been stuck in this repeating cycle over and over and over again. And the evil empire comes out on top, knocks Joe Burrow off. It was a tough fought game. It was a tough battle. Like you said, I thought the Bengals outplayed them. I thought the Bengals should have won. I thought the Bengals defense played better. I thought on almost every level of the game, the Bengals outplayed the Chiefs. But you make one crucial mistake, you make one boneheaded penalty, the Chiefs are going to make you pay. And, Harrison Butker there is automatic. He obviously knocks down that game winning field goal. But it's the story we've seen over and over and over again. And there's just not much to talk about, with this. It's just something that's all too familiar. We know the script, we know the story. And from a fantasy aspect, I'll hop into that on the Bengals side of things. A little disappointing week from Zach Moss. You're hoping he bounces back. He is, the RB1 in this offense. You're really hoping he finds the end zone. You're kind of banking on that kind of upside from him. Mike Gesicki, 9 targets, 7 receptions, 91 yards. I know he's available in a lot of leagues. He's probably worth a couple fab bucks just to stash to see if he can repeat this performance. Jamar Chase, I'm a little concerned on. He just doesn't look great out there. I don't know if you're seeing something else. I don't know if he's rusty because he held out. I am a little concerned on Jamar Chase. It felt like, obviously he's going against Trent McDuffie, and Trent McDuffie said from the beginning they got in his head and affected his play, but he was kind of irrelevant out there.
Yeah, definitely. I would credit a lot of it to Spags. He really schemed them up. They were forced to, really heavily target Gesicki, Eric All, Drew Sample. The tight ends were crazily involved in this one. Yeah, you had a deep downfield ball to Burton, and obviously Yoshivus gets 2 touchdowns that were normally Jamar Chase touchdowns. So I'm not too worried. I would even say I would maybe even buy low on Jamar Chase if you can, just because I do trust Joe Burrow. I trust this offense moving forward. They were pretty positive in this game. Obviously, Chase is looking like a diva. He's definitely not fully bought in right now, but I'm not too worried about Jamar Chase yet. I'm not hitting that panic button yet, especially when Higgins comes back. I think he can, they can't really fully focalize just Jamar Chase. So I'm not too worried about Chase yet. I do think another buy low candidate could be Zach Moss, just because he gets all the work in this backfield. He's the only one with a target. Chase Brown gets 0 targets. Chase Brown, he was pretty dynamic, Chase Brown, with his 4 touches, but Zach Moss is just the workhorse. And I think against the Commanders this week, he has a pretty good game. So I'm not really too worried about Zach Moss. I would probably go target him and Jamar Chase, if I'm being honest. And then, yeah, like you said, you could throw some money at Micah Gesicki, but people just aren't going to be focalizing Jamar Chase like this every single week, I don't think. And I think the offense will kind of open up more to the receivers compared to the tight ends. They kind of are just forced to funnel the offense through those tight ends.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but I mean, just to sum it up on this game, a story that we've seen before. We've seen this game before. We're not done seeing it, so it's just that's all I got to say.
Yeah, pretty very very fun game. Honestly, one of the more exciting games of the week, just like we predicted. Let's really just gloss over this game because this was just an irrelevant football game, especially fantasy football wise. The Steelers go into Denver, beat the Broncos 13-6, and it was just a gross football game. Really, Bo Nix gets 2 picks. Justin Fields plays pretty efficient football. He doesn't run the ball at all, but he looks pretty solid. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren are definitely closer to that 50-50 split. Jalen Warren's getting a little bit more of the receiving game. So you're not really too excited about either of them. You could start either of them in a dart throw for a touchdown, but you're not excited about either of them at all in this, kind of a 50-50 split with Fields kind of splitting the backfield as well. Just not exciting. George Pickens, I will say, big, big buy low opportunity right now. You got to go. Just ask what your George Pickens manager wants for him because he only has 2 catches for 29 yards. I'll be honest, he completely just wrecked Patrick Surtain. This was the worst game I've ever seen from Patrick Surtain in my life. He had 4 targets. The other 2 were PIs from Patrick Surtain. He just completely outplayed Surtain, and I'm very confident that George Pickens is just a great player. He's their only receiving option, and they're going to be targeting the hell out of him rest of season. So I'm targeting George Pickens. I think he's an awesome player, complete stud. And that's about it. You're just starting Pickens. You can start Fields and Superflex, and then you're scared as hell to start either of those running backs. For the Broncos, you're not starting anyone. Sutton's a bad football player. Javonte Williams is a bad football player. They're just kind of sad wide receiver 1 RB1s. It's a bad offense over there in Denver, man. Josh Reynolds is your leading receiver because of that long 50-yard catch. Devon Vele is coming back. He could be a PPR merchant, but you're just not starting anyone. You're not excited about anyone. Jaleel McLaughlin could be dropped. It's some bad stuff.
I don't even know what to say. It's pretty gross football, I guess. If you're a defensive guy, you like it from a defensive standpoint,
You're sick.
it's if you're a sick guy, if you're Arthur Smith and you like this kind of football, you're sick in the head, then this is your type of football. But I mean, shout out to the defenses. You could have started both the defenses. They were both the MVPs of this game. Only allowing 6 points and only allowing 13 points is pretty damn good from a defense playing an NFL offense, but the game script of this is just pretty awful. Um, Shout out the Steelers for getting a nitty-gritty win. I do feel bad for Bo Nix. I feel like he's put in a pretty bad situation, as his first 2 games in the NFL, going against obviously very good defenses, very smart coaches, and Mike McDonald and Mike Tomlin, just 2 defensive gurus. So he's kind of being thrown out there with the Wolves with just terrible, terrible weapons on offense and not a very productive offensive line right now. I am concerned. I'm concerned about the Broncos. I'm a little concerned about Sean Payton. I felt like I felt like it was the right thing to do to start Bo Nix, but at the same time, I don't know. Now that I start to question myself, maybe it was better just to throw Jarrett Stidham out there and then for the first 6 weeks and let him get the hell beat out of him. And then you have Bo Nix come in and, there's a little bit more confidence built there. There's a little less pressure. But just, this game in general, just shit fest of the week. You summed up fantasy perfectly. It's going to be interesting for both these teams going forward. Obviously, one's 2-0 and the other one's 0-2. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and I do just want to mention Javonte did have 5 catches for 48 yards. So I mean, you can't like drop him or anything. You're not panicking, but you're really not excited to start him at all. Maybe in this Buccaneers matchup you can start Javonte. But yeah, that's it on this game. That's all I want to say on this game because it just wasn't a fun game, really. It was definitely the worst game of the week. But we'll go on to the Sunday night football game. The Chicago Bears go into Houston, lose to the Texans 19-13. CJ Stroud is the best quarterback of all time. Every single throw, every time he drops back, you just know it's going to be a perfectly accurate throw. Every time he launches the ball, it's going to be a perfect throw downfield to Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs. Nico Collins has an absolute day with the 1 touchdown, 135 yards, and 8 catches on 10 targets. He's awesome. He's genuinely a league winner at this point with how good him and Stroud's connection is. Tank Dell, you're a little bit scared. Obviously, he has a very, very stinker of a performance. He's -3 yards through the air on this one. So that is a little bit scary. He was bad in week one as well. We predicted that Stephon Diggs was the wide receiver 2 in this offense, and that definitely played out. So yeah, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, you're excited to start. Joe Mixon obviously goes down. So I will say that Cam Akers is the guy that you want to pick up. You're not going to want to play around with Agunbowale or Damian Pierce. It's just Cam Akers. And then I don't think you're starting Cam Akers until he proves that you can. I mean, you could actually in a deeper league. He might fall into the end zone in that mix and roll, but you're just starting Stroud, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell in a flex role that you're not too excited about, honestly, but he will be better. He could be a buy low candidate as well. And then Cam Akers is the guy that you want in that backfield. Bears interior offensive line is the worst I've ever seen in my life. I mean, they allowed just a pressure every single play. It felt like that interior offensive line was really disappointing. Bears fans already calling for Shane Waldron's head. Not a great start in Chicago. I will say I do think it will get better. I thought Caleb looked a little bit better, especially just playing within the offense, just taking the easy stuff. But you kind of had to play hero ball at the end there, and it got a little ugly with the turnovers. So I'm not too worried about Caleb. He looked nice on the ground as well. But yeah, it's really just DJ Moore against the world. I mean, you can start Swift because they play a really, really soft Colts D line this week, but that is really about it.
Yeah, and like you said, I don't think it's time to panic or anything on Caleb. Obviously, he doesn't look great out there. He throws 2 interceptions. He gets sacked 7 times. What one of the announcers said, something to me that actually really stood out was, Caleb Williams in college football in high school was just used to being the best player on the field. He's just used to, being the best person out there, period. And so when you come to the NFL, it is a different game. You got to learn how to play within an offense, play within a scheme. And it's going to take some time to learn, for Caleb Williams, who's just used to running around playing that Josh Allen type hero ball, which maybe he can eventually get comfortable enough to where he can do that successfully. But right now, he's got to, learn to take his dink and ducks, play within the offense, play within the system. And it's something he's got to learn. So for anyone calling for Caleb Williams' head or saying he's a bad quarterback, just give it time. I mean, these are rookie quarterbacks going into very complicated systems. I think he's going to be just fine. He's got the talent around him. I think they could turn it around very soon. They don't lose. I mean, he doesn't have a great offensive coordinator either. He doesn't have one of the greater minds. They do have an incredible team, an incredible GM. So the Bears will be fine. They're still intriguing, exciting. And I think when Keenan Allen comes back next week, I think he's going to be I think they're just going to progressively getting better in fantasy. I think obviously you start DJ Moore. I think Keenan Allen with the target share he got in week one, I think he's the start. The running backs for the Bears scare me. Where do you prioritize them? Or are they just benches now? I don't think I start one of them and feel confident ever.
Yeah, I would literally say that Swift is a bench in every single league except for they play the Colts this week, who have the softest run defense I've ever, I mean, historically soft run defense with Buckner out. So, I mean, you can start Swift as a last ditch dart throw this week against the Colts, but that is literally it. And then, yeah, like you said, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and that is it. But they are playing the Colts, so I do think this will be kind of a get right game for the Bears offense against the Colts. Kind of, I think they beat that Colts team. That's looking pretty rough.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Excited to see the progression of Caleb Williams throughout the season. I still have really high hopes for him.
Yeah, I'm gonna be sitting pretty on my Caleb stocks. I have no doubt that he will play a lot better by the end of the season. But we'll go on to the Monday Night Football game, the game that just barely ended. The Falcons go into Philadelphia, beat the Eagles out of nowhere, 22-21. That game was looking like the Eagles had it up until like 30 seconds left. That last drive, Kirk Cousins actually looked like vintage Kirk Cousins on that drive. It was pretty beautiful stuff. Shout out to Kirk Cousins, 2 touchdowns. His a pretty nice day, a pretty nice efficient day through the air. So shout out to Kirk Cousins. He played a lot better than the week one performance. Maybe he'll just kind of play his way into shape and maybe he'll get, more healthy as the season goes on. So that is good to see, especially for the Falcons receiving options like Drake London, who has a lot better of a game, a beautiful touchdown where he just routes up Darius Slay, just a beautiful, beautiful route from Drake London. Darnell Mooney gets that long touchdown. Ray McLeod, it's felt like wide receiver one in this offense, just hilarious. But Bijan Robinson is a complete stud. He is the best running back in the NFL physically. He can do it all. He can run, catch. He just makes crazy, crazy cuts. Got crazy jukes. I mean, he's going to be awesome. rest of season. So you're really excited about Bijan. Drake London, you can start now after seeing this performance. They play the Chiefs this week, so they're going to be passing the hell out of the ball again. So you're definitely more optimistic. Kyle Pitts right back down to earth. Very scary. You're not really looking to start Kyle Pitts unless you really need to. And that's about it for the Falcons. And then the Eagles kind of blow this one. They really just collapse at the end there. Jalen Hurts just throws a really bad pick at that last seconds to beat. To lose the game. Jesse Bates had a great game. He was all over the place, had a great pass breakup on Devonta Smith. And Devonta Smith showed that without A.J. Brown, he's that guy. 10 targets. He is a really, really nice touchdown. He just looks like an awesome football player out there. Saquon doesn't get the touchdown, but he looks awesome as well. He almost had one that got called back, and Saquon's going to be a top running back rest of season. And I think that's about it. I'm not really going to start Jahan Dotson or any other options. You could pick up a Britton Covey in a PPR league, but I think it's really just Devonta Smith, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, a little bit gross, and obviously Jalen Hurts, and that's it.
Yeah, you summed up that whole fantasy aspect perfectly. I will talk a little bit about the game. Saquon Barkley, absolute stud. That last catch to seal the game was pretty terrible. That's probably going to keep him up, for the rest of the night. That cost them the game.
Yep.
But, from Kirk Cousins, that final drive was beautiful, man. I mean, on time, on rhythm. I don't know where that's been the last two games. I mean, that one drive right there to go down there and win the game was a thing of beauty, and that was kind of the takeaway from the whole night for me. Is just that one drive. It's throwing on time, having a rhythm in the offense. It just looked they were comfortable. They looked good. You got that last touchdown to Drake London, which was super exciting. So hopefully that's one of many to come for Drake London fantasy owners. But what a drive from Kirk Cousins at the end of the game to seal that. I mean, just did not miss a pass. I mean, made the right read every single time. And that was just a thing of beauty. That 2 minute drive right there was just beautiful. No timeouts, I think a minute 36 seconds on the clock. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, it felt like it saved the season. It looked like the Falcons season could have gone down the dumps with their schedule the next few weeks, but it really, really makes you more optimistic about this Falcons team moving forward. They got the Chiefs this week, got a really hard schedule coming up, but in fantasy especially, you're really optimistic about these guys. Anything else you want to say in this game?
No, hell of a game. Fun way to end week 2.
Yep. Some more crazy stuff, but really fun going over all these games. Stay tuned to the NFL Secrets podcast for our week 3 preview and recap. Thank you guys for tuning in. Peace out.